Good afternoon, Honorable Minister Hill. We are really excited to be in Jamaica. I heard your speech as well as our Honorable Deputy Prime Minister's speech. So in that, I noticed that you have trade agreements with all the countries, but not with India. When are you going to have a trade agreement between India and Jamaica?
I'm so glad the High Commissioner Hill is sitting right here, because he's going to go right away and talk to the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. Foreign trade agreements are made by the Foreign Ministry. We will work with them, but given the relationship we're looking to build with India, the truth is the WTO and the other international agreements are wonderful, but it's really bilateral trade agreements properly work that really develop trade.
Yes.
So, Mr. Chowdary is absolutely right. I would commit, High Commissioner, to work with you and Foreign Minister to make sure we put in the necessary trade agreements in the next few months so that we can get it done to energize this visit into something that turns out to be productive for business.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. The other important thing, Honorable Minister, if we had to develop the knowledge industry, the startup industry in Jamaica, manpower is going to be critical because it's all manpower driven. With 2.8 population, I don't know how many students come out of the institutions every year. I don't think that manpower will be sufficient. For example, there is Krishna. If Krishna wants to expand operations in Jamaica with, say, 5,000, 10,000 employees, because he can service all his North American customers. Like Krishna, suppose we want to bring 100 more such companies to Jamaica. So how do we take care of the manpower requirement for that kind of a growing industry? Our cost of operation in Jamaica may be more than the cost of operations in Silicon Valley. So how do you,
There's a place for businesses to say, I can identify Jamaicans, work with heart, here is my curriculum, I want to train you for my business. And you find that Jamaicans now, instead of going away, will come back. Something else will happen. I am very convinced that given the way we're developing our country, our infrastructure is growing, but we believe that Jamaica, so fluent in English, producing still at a higher than mere replacement rate in our population, still for now, we'll have enough young people, and we have a relatively young population. We also, outside of the North American continent, we have the largest English-speaking population in the Caribbean and South America. So this is the place to be. One of the things that part of, when you're setting up a business, a line item has to be trained people, whether you're in India or not. I know in the late 70s, early 80s, when I visited India for the first time, Citibank, I remember going to Citibank and they had a room 5 times the size of this. And they were all young engineers, young men then, I didn't see any young women at the time, young men, white shirts, black pants, uniform in there, it was called Coastal. Those who know the history well enough know that Costals were there training those people. And they were coming out of India's best university. Any business that wants to be exceptional will have to invest in the people. It's the biggest asset you will have, because they're the ones who create the microchips and whatever else you want for AI. So we have to make sure that you put a line item, and training in Jamaica is much cheaper than anywhere else, because we graduate them for you and you can train them. But yes, we also are recognizing you manage your immigration properly so that we get the right people in. And the Prime Minister is on public platforms saying, as we get to this stage, your Indian friends can tell you, we're going to have to bring in technical people at a higher level. But when you bring them in, they must be prepared to train Jamaicans. So we we do not now have a visa requirement for Indians to come in. Thank heavens we got rid of that some years ago. You're going to have a work permit, but you make a case and it will take 6 to 10 weeks, 8 weeks to get your work permit when you place it right. We want to grow. We know we cannot grow without the right amount of people. So we're training Jamaicans well, and where it's necessary, we get help to bring in the right people. A little long answer, but I wanted to give you a background.
The other important thing, since we are now supporting the startup companies in a big way across the globe.
Right.
For the startup industry, the most important thing is the innovation-led startup, R&D-led startup. So the R&D infrastructure, the creative infrastructure in the universities. For example, what is happening in India? Why suddenly there's so many unicorns started coming? Not only the Indian premier institutions like IITs, IIITs, and all that. They have set up a large number of the R&D labs and all that. This thing. So they're creating that kind of intellectual property within those institutions. Because of that, we see there's a sudden growth of the unicorns from the startups coming out of these premier institutions in India. So what is that is going to happen in Jamaica if you start developing that kind of startup companies from here? Do you have that kind of R&D infrastructure or innovative infrastructure in your premier institution?
The CMU has a fantastic, if you ever get a chance to go to Kingston, see it, go and look at their robotics arrangement. The Jamaicans just participated in a robotics conference in France last year, and they're coming from our universities. The MCU in Manchester is the same thing. We know that Wipro, Larsen and Turbo, Infosys, these companies, these huge Indian companies, of course the Ambanis and the rest of them, Tata, before all of those that I just named, Tata was doing this. They made sure they invested a lot in R&D in India. And while the university, because the universities weren't rich, it's a lot of help came from the companies. And so, as I said to you, a line item must be in there for not only training R&D, and the government now, you heard the Deputy Prime Minister. Deputy Prime Minister himself is a doctor, is a technical person, understands this. We just talked about it. And more, as we know that Jamaica, we cannot become a rich country selling to only 3 million Jamaicans who have a per capita GDP of $6,000. We're never going to get rich. We're not going to be able to do that unless we move, in fact, leapfrog the quality of people that we have. And that means investing in R&D in our university and get our companies who come here, including wonderful Indian ones, to invest here and make sure you help with our R&D investment. So we're open for that. We're an open economy, and you have a government that is committed to business.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. The other important ingredient for the software, particularly knowledge startups to survive and succeed, government is investing heavily creating incubators. For example, in Hyderabad, government of Telangana created a fantastic facility called T-Hub. They provide the entire ecosystem, not only just the building, the workstations and all the conference rooms. They bring the investors, they bring the prospective customers there, and all that kind of infrastructure they have created. Because of that, I mean, a lot of startup activities are happening. So for promoting the startup industry, because you are going to push your, as you just now mentioned, all your citizens to the next level, definitely this is the path. But for that, how are you going to, I mean, do you have plans to create that kind of a high quality T-Hub kind of infrastructure, not only the physical infrastructure, but the intellectual infrastructure, the market infrastructure, and all those things have to be provided. See, government is a big buyer, they are a big purchaser. They themselves either use that product or they connect to the other the partners within their country. So do you have any such plans?
I tell you, I know what Mr. Naidu, Chief Minister Naidu did in Andhra, and how he built Andhra to the state where it is today, where it has always been a leader in India. And a lot of that he did through the private sector.
Yes.
You know why Deputy Prime Minister, General Secretary of the governing party, the Minister of National Security, who handles visa and all those kind of stuff, is here today? Why we spend so much time here? Because we want companies like you from India to understand the commitment of the government. You can go away and say, we understand. You have a contact that you can go to. Because why we want you from India is to help us to do exactly that.
Yes.
Part of what, yes, we want money. Yes, we want people, but the biggest thing we want, we want technology. But the biggest thing we want is the people that will come with the ideas. We don't want to recreate the wheel. It's very costly to create a wheel. We want to make sure the wheel that you have, we adjust to our size. And we know, we really don't, to be totally honest with you, we really don't know all the ecosystems that you will need to make that work. But we know you know. So we want to make sure that you and your colleagues in this delegation say to us, this is what we need. We say, all right, give us a proposal. We then look at what we have to do, where we're going to take the economy, because we've given up sugar. Sugar is not in our economy anymore. Banana's not in our economy anymore. Okay. The way we have to go is to go up the technology field and make sure, even if it's healthcare, and our nurses, like some of yours, have the best cachet in the United States. You go up and down the East Coast of the United States. I forget California. We leave that to you. You go up and down the East Coast in the United States. You find 5 matrons in any Mount Sinai hospital and a bunch of nurses. Because if you get a nurse from that has been trained in the Kingston Public Hospital, there is no disease, no problems that she can manage by herself. So they're very welcome. So even the healthcare business, we want to say, yes, we have good nurses, we understand, but you have the technology. I've been to your healthcare areas in India. What the pies have done in southern India is amazing.
Manipal hospitals.
Exactly. So we want to make sure that when you come, you bring that and you say, here, Jamaica, we will help you, but this is what you need to do. So it saves us from spending money that we might waste without your knowledge. So come to Jamaica.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Minister. Before we leave, I have a request.
Yes.
To take these discussions to the action-driven program. We mean business. We don't want to waste your precious time. At the same time, I don't want to waste my CEOs who have come and participating, coming all the way from India, North America and all that. It has to result in getting into actual quick results. For that, I propose to sign an MOU with ISF, with the Jamaican government, clearly articulating what is that we are planning to do, what is that we expect from Jamaican government, what are the milestones, and I request you to review these milestones at least once in a quarter in a Zoom call, whatever it is, so that if there are any bottlenecks, we can clear all those bottlenecks so that there is a smooth passage, because ultimately we have to succeed. Ultimately, the citizens of Jamaica has to be successful citizens. For that, we are here to help. At the same time, we want to help our companies also to take advantage of your location and access to the North American market.
As I said, we do not recreate the wheel. We take their wheel and adjust it to the Jamaican requirement. And very quickly, we must have an MOU, because it's going to be, I suggest that you make it between you and ISF, so that we can get that done quickly. The next step, of course, is a larger level of MOUs, which, of course, you will work with the High Commissioner. At that level, I will have to take it to cabinet because it will be government to government.
Sure.
That's for when we're probably going to go to India. So we make sure we get that done, but include the High Commissioner now so he's fully aware of what we're doing. And I think a two-week period, 20th of this month, I can have a draft fully reviewed and ready to go so that Mr. Chowdary and myself, we don't waste time. I'm so happy that you're here in my country this time because I've been to yours so many times to make sure we make this work. And you know what, Mr. Chowdary, I wanted to work for Jamaica because even our friends in the Caribbean, when we do this we just multiply across the region. So let's get this done, Shillette, and the 20th is when I expect to see you.
So the query is, Jamaican Investment Ministry, led by you, sir. All the graphs I have seen, one thing which was missing, and I have a question related to that, the interest rates actually.
Our finance minister cannot tell the central bank what to do. It's independent. It has a currency board. It has a board of directors. And it has one mandate. The mandate is to control inflation, not to manage the currency. Well, all hell broke loose in the business community, for which I'm now in charge as the Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce, to say, how do you mean you're not going to manage the currency? Well, we said the central bank has one mandate, to manage inflation. Inflation, we said, and we renewed it earlier this year, must stay in the range of 4 to 6%. Well, we made our law, and Mr. Putin made his decision, and Hamas made their decision, and the world wasn't quite as even as when we made the law. Oil prices went up. India had a privileged position, good for you, and therefore inflation took off. Oil prices push a lot of things. Then the pandemic happened, of course. Pandemic messed up everything in the world, but it affected the whole world. Our inflation, we were managing within the 6% all those years, and then the inflation took off and went to as high as, I think, 10.5. Very high. However, we stayed the course. We wouldn't change the law. And in between that, our currency, now we live in a hurricane region. Usually if there's an announcement that there is a weather formation off the coast of West Africa, our currency started to wobble. Very unstable. Well, in the past 5-6 years, the currency has had a variance of between 2.5%, 3.5%, 4% maximum variation. Now that's unbelievable. Let me tell you how unbelievable it is. Lenders have now agreed with our Minister of Finance to accept Jamaican bonds. We don't increase our debt, but we replace existing debt that is becoming mature. They are now willing to issue bonds denominated in the Jamaican dollar. You cannot get any more respect than that from your international lenders. So the interest rates have now, in the past couple of months, come back. It's now down to 5.3%. The range that we're looking at to manage our currency has come back within the range. Interest rates is still a little bit high at about, I think it's about 7, but I see that the Europeans start to cut interest rate. We have now been back in the range that we've set it for, so I can't speak for the governor because the governor doesn't take instructions anymore except that he must work within the policy. I expect the Bank of Jamaica to begin to cut rates so that businesses can begin to feel the benefit of that rate. And we never know what will happen in the US. If the US, because of a change of administration or whatever happens, decided to pump a lot more oil and get the Keystone pipeline back in operation, oil prices will fall and inflation then can be expected to come down and interest rates then can follow it in Jamaica. That's a broad economic posture that we see going ahead. But we're in a good place. We're back in the range of inflation that we want to be in.
Thank
you very much.
Thank
Mr.
you,
Chowdary.
Honorable Minister. I
what a
think
pleasure. What a
we will
pleasure.
certainly make it happen.
Now, this is the picture that we have to have.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to My Startup TV.